And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Hi, I'm Warren. It is time to break down the October 23rd edition of AEW Dynamite. If this is your first time here, hello, welcome. This is part of the package deal that you get when you subscribe to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show stuff, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on your favorite podcast app. You get this every Thursday. I review the last night's Dynamite. I take some time, I step away, I sleep on it, wake up the next morning, gather my thoughts, and then here we are. So here we are. So I'm doing this, that's it. I'm doing this on the Thursday. Hope you are having a great week so far. It's wrapping up, right? Isn't it? Unless, you work weekends, then your week maybe is just starting up. Look, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter to you, but it doesn't matter in this context. Look, the idea is that it's Thursday. It means the regular work week is just about done. Aren't you all excited? And aren't you all excited to have me regale you for the next few minutes, right? Isn't that just, look, it's just a fantastic combination. I don't know. So listen, like the video on YouTube, give a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. Why? Why, you say? I'll tell you why, because it helps the channel grow. It helps get the video out there. It helps, it just helps. What is it we're doing? We are clicking the things to help that create engagement so that the algorithms know about me. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now. No, we are reviewing a Dynamite show. Last night was, like I said, October 23rd, 2024, from the Maverick Center in West Valley City, Utah. 2,849 tickets. No, excuse me. 2,540 tickets were distributed according to WrestleTix for this 12,000 seat arena. This is not the final count, but I don't think we're cracking 3,000 on this. I think this is just about it. I highly recommend people go head over and listen to the latest edition of WrestleNomics, where Brandon Thurston makes a tremendous case in regards to AEW's situation right now, closer resembling WWE from the 2010s, particularly the latter part, pre-pandemic WWE. That AEW is closer to that in regards to creative, in regards to business. Like, there's a lot of points to compare to point at, as opposed to the tired old WCW 2000, which is only perpetuated by people who have never watched WCW 2000. Like, that's something I firmly believe in. If anyone who spouts that never watched WCW 2K, and seeing that there's a lot of children out there today, I sincerely believe that is the I sincerely believe that is the case. But you should go check that out. Brendan's video is what I'm saying, not WCW 2K. That's a disaster. Like, only do that if you really, really hate yourself. Like, if you want to gain a fond appreciation for pro wrestling in 2024. Like, there's that case to be made too. And this is important, I think. Like, you sometimes really have to watch the bad stuff to understand how far we've come, and to, things that we consider to be bad matches today are nothing close to what bad matches were in the 90s. Like, a bad match in the 90s, you just made your eyes bleed. Today we complain that, oh, there's too many spots, or it's like, whoops, they botched this one move and then it's like terrible match, bad. I'd say a bad match today is still better than a bad match in 1992 WCW. I think that's fair. I think it's a fair comparison. But the point, ultimately, what I'm trying to make here is that you should maybe watch WCW 2K and then just realize, like, what truly a disaster looks like, and how far removed from that we are in our current age, like right now in this current trend of wrestling. Anyway, let's get right into this show. A show where I don't know how to like. I was trying to think of like an umbrella under which I could operate here. Well, this show was this, or to find a through line, or something. But this was it was a weird show. I think a very strong first hour and a very middling second hour. And I had this complaint about the Jon Moxley stuff. Might as well just like dive into it because it opens up the show practically, right? Well, no, it does open up the show, come to think of it. Just because you put Jon Moxley and his group in doing disgusting things in the main event doesn't necessarily mean that it feels like the most important angle on the show. And it should be the most important angle on the show. And it's been billed as the most important angle on the show. And they have been promoting it as the most important angle on the show. When they do the graphics, right, for the announcing stuff? I mean, they do signs, right? Warning signs, Mox is here or Mox is coming. I don't remember. And I'm like, okay. But then Mox shows up for like, again, one episode where it's all the lower mid-carders. It's like all the J-Brones just hanging around and who are hanging around for him, right? Like, the show, because when the show opens up, let's attach this directly to this week's episode as opposed to me just talking in vagaries. You start the show here. You've got the entire lower mid-card who pops out, right? Who are there, and they're, everywhere from Top Flight, Action Andretti, the Dark Order, Jay Lethal, and you look at this agglomeration of people, and you're like, and they all have weapons, right? They all have weapons. They're all weaponed up. They're all ready to swing their weapons. They can't, because they're J-Brones. They're geeks, so they can't take on Jon Moxley and crew, with fisticuffs. They have to get the pipes. They have to get the crowbars, the nunchucks. Look, we're gonna get. So we have this agglomeration of people that are there that Jon Moxley and crew have been punking out for weeks at this point. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't care. Like, these guys are not going to do anything. They haven't been able to do anything over the past couple of weeks. I see right through this. And I was like, look, they're probably not even going to come in through the parking lot. They're going to come in through another entrance because it's a big, it's an arena. It's a 12,000 seat arena. There's more than one way to get into the building. Like, these are all dopes. Like, at some point, am I supposed to be against Mox? Because if Mox is saying, I want to change things in AEW, and he's railing against, if you're not with us, you're against us, and the people who are against him are just like the dopiest dopes that ever doped. I'm like, sure, like, I'm going to side with Mox on this. It won't be that hard. Like, I don't understand it. It's a very strange setup that they have going here. So when Mox does arrive at the end, right? Well, who's he taking out? Yeah, who's he taking out? Private Party? Again? Like, who cares? Right? Daniel Garcia, maybe a little more, but it's not as if they're establishing Daniel Garcia as a force of nature here either. It's not as if they've taken it upon themselves to make Daniel Garcia feel like the leader of the resistance. And this could be easily fixed, super easily fixed, by having Dan Garcia, instead of hanging out with the fucking Private Party losers who have been established as losers. losers before the match with the Young Bucks and lost the match to the Young Bucks. Like, these guys are losers. Instead of him hanging out with them, he should be beating up other people. He should be like, give me Yuta, and beating the piss out of Yuta. Like, right now, the problem with the Mox arc is that there is no one stepping up to be the strong leader or the strong opposition. Now, we've clearly established on last night's show that Orange Cassidy is going to be the guy. Like, Moxley versus Cassidy at Full Gear. Like, I think that's a fairly safe call at this point. But up until this point, Mox has been running through the mid card, the lower mid card on top of that, and everyone's like, well, sure. Now, if Mox were running through Adam Cole, if Mox were running through Will Ospreay, or, you know, I was going to say the Elite, but nonetheless, you know, running through established guys that you know have a certain level of protection, instead of guys who just like either are in and out of spots and of feuds, either that or just like the Dark Order, who are perennial jobbers in this company. It's like, this has no impact. I'm not feeling the gravitas of this. Taking Danielson out, hell yeah. Like, absolutely yes. You know, I'd say even at this point, them destroying Jeff Jarrett would create more sympathy for the other side. But, you know, like, Daniel Garcia came out to his match and he had an AEW t-shirt on, and then commentary was saying, oh yeah, coming out with his AEW colors, trying to rally the troops. I'm like, outside of that one segment last week, what has he been doing? Like, why would you throw your support behind Daniel Garcia, where you're like, well, what are you doing, Daniel? You're doing run-ins, sure. You know, does this make sense? Like, hopefully I'm making sense here. Because, right, there is no, let's break it down a little, maybe a little simpler. There's no protagonist for the audience to get behind. Now, again, we established that Orange Cassidy is going to be the guy to step up. But why, in this type of argument, why hasn't anyone else stepped up to the plate? Why hasn't anyone else? Now, I know they're probably saving some big names, some big returns, maybe down the road. You know, you could see Kenny Omega coming out of nowhere and saying, enough's enough. You know, they're teasing the Bucks may be having a crisis of conscience, right? But right now, we're just continuously beating up the same guys week after week. I'm like, and these guys are not putting up a resistance, putting up a wall, and then having this through line throughout the evening where I'm like, no one cares. Like, who cares? Who could possibly care about this? You know, what if Swerve stepped up? See, Swerve would have been a great candidate, because he even did that when it was time for Blood and Guts, where he was like, I'm going to lead Team AEW, or Mark Briscoe, you know, but they're involved in their own things on the side. So you've got all these guys who would be really great fits into, you know, this Infinity War situation. But like, it's legitimately, if you look with the Infinity War, with the comparison here, it's as if, you know, in the movie, you had the Infinity War, but instead of having Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, you know, on the front lines, you had, you know, who was leading it? Ant-Man and, you know, whoever the fuck else, you know, the stone guy from the Thor movies. What is it? Korg? And, you know, Deadpool. Deadpool's cool, though. Do you get the comparison? Like we have Thanos on the other side, and we're sending in Paul Rudd to take him out. No disrespect to Paul Rudd. It's a weird type of situation, if you ask me, and it's still not like I get what they're doing. And when Mox cuts his promos, and here's the thing, here's the great dichotomy of this situation. When Mox cuts his promos, they're compelling, they're tremendous. The thing he did in the desert, just fantastic stuff. Like it really is, it is genuinely great. But then the execution is like, well, it's Mox beating up jobbers. Like, who cares? Like, it's okay for, a week or two, but we're still doing this, and it's only the jobbers who are standing up to him. And quite frankly, here's the thing that really, maybe this is just a little thing. Actually, it is a little thing. But sometimes it's the little things, right? Sometimes it's the little things. Here's something that really ground my gears. John Silver, look, they're established. This is the biggest storyline in the company. It's a serious storyline. This guy is choking people out with plastic bags, right? But he destroyed Bryan Danielson. Like, this is supposed to be this most serious angle in the company. And they are establishing Mox's group as killers, right? Killers. So you have John Silver hanging out with the rest of the J-Brones, and he's got nunchucks, right? Everyone has really plausible things that they just picked up. And of course he has nunchucks. And immediately I'm like, this is not serious. And he's spinning them around and you're like, this is not serious. And this is supposed to be serious. And he's in the forefront, like he's on the front line and he's doing his thing. And later on in the evening, later on in the evening, he's talking with someone. You can hear him say, "I'm gonna nunchuck you." When Christian Cage arrives, he says, "I'm gonna nunchuck you." You're like, dude. Like, we understand nunchucks are funny. We understand. I'm gonna nunchuck. I get it, but in the circumstance, you are angry. You're supposed to be angry, maybe anxious, a little afraid, because these guys are all nuts. That's why you're all in a posse right now, all armed to the teeth with stuff that you picked up backstage. You're like, oh, nunchucks, haha. Like, he's going for the ha-has. And so again, I'm like, why should I care about these people that John Moxley and crew is going to run through? And I like the Dark Order. Look, I got the whole Dark Order guys over here. I like the Dark Order. I always have. But someone should have just told John, hey, no jokes, no funny stuff. We know you're a funny guy and you like the comedy and that's what keeps you over, kind of thing. But this is not the time or the place. So I watched this and I'm like, just plow right through. And when Marina Shafir arrived, I was like, why doesn't she just push on the gas? It doesn't matter. Like, you understand, not for real, not, run them over with a truck for real. But, I'm like, why I don't care. I don't care about these people. I just don't. And there's nothing for me to really latch on to. So as I said, moving forward, they have clearly established that Orange is going to be the first guy out the gate. He's going to be he's going to be the challenger of the month, right? They have Daniel Garcia who's hanging around as well. But Garcia has been doing jack shit, and then they pull him out for a trios match in which, he basically wrestles, but the whole centerpiece is Private Party getting a win back on the Bucks so they can challenge them for the tag titles again. So Daniel Garcia is kind of like, an afterthought. He's got his little thing with Jack Perry, but Jack Perry has nothing to do with the Mox stuff. And I know Perry is sort of establishing, like they're breadcrumbing a little bit, where Jack Perry, the Bucks seem worried, but Jack Perry's like, no, forget this shit. Come on, let's go backstage. Who cares, So maybe eventually Jack Perry ends up on Mox's side because he realizes, the Bucks are, a couple of goofs. Like, I still think here's we were talking about dichotomies. Here's one right here. I still think it is the most compelling angle in AEW to right now, I think it has its problems to get itself over because I think the angle should be hotter than this. But I feel like we're establishing the story, we're establishing the pattern, but this has been going on for a couple of weeks without any story bumps. There hasn't been any story bumps. Don't get make sure that we understand this. This is something I used to talk about a while back, where you have the impression that there's a story being told week after week, but you're still running in place. We're exactly at the same place we were last week. There's nothing new outside of, the intrigue around Orange Cassidy, but there hasn't been a storyline bump. So frankly, like, I'm giving this one a lot of rope, but I guess I want to care more about this than what how AEW is approaching making me care for this. Does that make sense? I want to be invested in this, but I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't give a shit about, Jay Lethal getting beat up in the parking lot, whether he's going to be able to do it or not. Like, I don't care. These people don't matter to me. Well, they matter as humans, but as on-screen characters is what I'm saying. It's like, this is the thing. I'm not wishing harm or, on any of these people, but as characters, right? We're talking within the environment, this entertainment product that I'm watching. I'm not invested in these characters, in these wrestlers here, because AEW has told me not to be invested in them because they're nerds, they're geeks. They're jabrones. Who cares? And Mox has been handily taking care of them as well week after week. So, like, it all just doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. But, like I said, here we are, like, clearly next week, I'm expecting another level of conversation around this. I'm expecting something completely different. Orange Cassidy being the guy, setting himself up as being the de facto leader here. It's time to step up. He had the talk with Chucky T, who has a production role backstage. Good for him. Despite being taken out again. Poor Chuck. Got Pillmanized around the neck. So this is the stuff, it's happening again. Orange, you have to do something. So it's Orange. It's Orange that's going to get the rub off of this. He's going to be sacrificed to Mox. And what should be a fun main event for Full Gear. I feel like this might be a lot more heated had Orange if they had actually elevated Orange after losing to Mox way back when. But, let's not retread that today. Yeah, Chuck is completely gone, right? Like, he's like... This is, look, I thought it was a good way it was a good use of Chuck using the relationship with Orange Cassidy and I enjoyed how it was put together. All I'm saying is that the execution sometimes I don't think is exactly there. That's the main. But isn't that most of the problems with AEW's angles? Anyway, let's get it. Let's keep going into the show. Tony Schiavone, after they do the recap of Mox being, they recap how Mox came into power, I guess, and then they do there's the promo in the desert. So then you see all the geeks waiting for them outside with weapons in hand. And Tony Schiavone is in the ring to speak with Hangman Adam Page. And Page gets in the ring, bullies the mic out of Tony Schiavone's hand. Why is every heel going after Tony? Why is every heel like Adam Page? I get it, Adam Page, I understand that's his whole thing. But you can't have everyone bully Tony. You can't. Page starts talking. He starts talking about how he took out Austin Gunn, and Colton Gunn then jumps him from behind. So we really don't get far into this promo. Of course, Adam Page gets in control of the situation, but the rest of the Bang Bang Gang run to the ring. Jay White and Juice Robinson, that is. because Austin is still out. And White gets a few licks in. Page takes a powder, and White just delivers a tremendous, passionate promo. Again, just like basic, bare bones. He says, that he'll always have his number, basically, and saying, if it wasn't for Christian Cage interfering, I'd be 5-0 over you, right? Because they have the whole New Japan history. I think I love that they all tie this in. It's good stuff. So of course we knew this feud must continue after the loss last week, but now it's super clear that Jay White and Hangman Adam Page are not done with each other yet. I'm okay with that. I think these are two great dudes. I think they work really well together. I loved the match. Loved the match at Wrestle Dream. So if they want to give us more of that, I will not complain. Hey, are we done with the era of AEW Dynamite starting with matches? Is this era done? Like, I thought this was a little thing that they do over a couple of weeks, but they've been doing it multiple weeks in a row now. So are we done? Is this it? Is this finished? Is the era of AEW starting with a match instead of starting with promo talk, is it done? Are we once again doing like the other guys do because this is what pro wrestling is now? I'm very disappointed. Because again, good promo, but nothing crucial that had to start the show off, right? Why didn't we start with the match? Like, you can go back and listen to everything I have ever said, and you will not hear me say, I wish AEW would start with promo segments. Because, and it's unfortunate, because here's another way in which AEW distinguished itself from WWE. Instead of starting with promos like WWE does every fucking week, every fucking show, Dynamite would start with a match. And now we're slowly, is it done? Is the era done? Or are we going to get a match to start the show next week? We get a pre-tape backstage hyping Shelton Benjamin and Sammy Guevara. Basically both guys hyping each other up. And they are trying, so incredibly hard to get the to make babyface Sammy work. Like, they are working hard on it. They're really giving us the hard sell. And it just doesn't work, because Sammy comes out for his match. I wouldn't say crickets, but it's not exactly a response that you would expect from someone who was a day oneer, from someone who was established as one of the 4 pillars of the company, one of the guys who would carry the AEW into the future. Somehow we are insistent that babyface Sammy Guevara has to work. Sammy Guevara, who is naturally unlikable as far as his in-ring presence go. I don't know the man personally, but his mannerisms, his energy. This is a guy who is a natural heel and who doesn't give off good babyface energy. He just doesn't. Sammy feels sometimes like this company has passed him by. Sometimes it feels that way. Like he tries stuff, and he leaves for a while, comes back, tries to get back into the audience's good graces or whatever, and he just comes up short. Despite him being an AEW original, it feels like this company has passed him by. Darby is still super relevant in this AEW. Darby is still super relevant in AEW in 2024. Jack Perry, I mean, say what you want about the CM Punk stuff, but thank God for that, and he's absolutely relevant. MJF, well, if we're talking about the 4 pillars, right? MJF is MJF. MJF was always destined to be a top guy. That's fine. But Sammy has been left behind. Sometimes we'll talk about how the Dark Order sometimes feels like an act that that is from another era, right? That feels a little out of place in the current AEW sphere, right? I kind of feel the same way about Sammy, Private Party, right up until they decided to change gimmicks, right? But Private Party's the same thing. I'm like, these are all people who are still in the same place that they were when this company started. Maybe a little worse. Especially when it comes to Sammy. Multiple time TNT champion. Had that, that particularly great match with Cody, right? Does anyone see Sammy Guevara as championship material in 2024? Of course not. Anyway, the match itself, I thought was pretty good. Man, Sammy is just, again, selling his ass off for Shelton. I mean, Shelton is getting the Brock Lesnar treatment so far. I thought Shelton was pretty good here. Not as good as his match with, not as good as in his match with Leo Rush last week, but it wasn't sloppy. It wasn't a disaster. I'm just like, maybe not as great. I love the belly to belly on the ramp, and Sammy doing a springboard moonsault to the floor. Shelton Benjamin, anti-airs Sammy with a super kick coming off the ropes, and he does that exploder power slam gimmick which I don't think he nailed it perfectly. I don't know. The angle was kind of weird, maybe. No, that was good. Good little match. I don't know why we just didn't start with it. It was a good little match. We go backstage. Mariah May is walking around with a suitcase. She says that it is Anna Jay's luggage, and she opens it up and tosses it down the hallway, spreading all of Anna's stuff all over. Now, I was sitting at home and like, nah, this is not a wrestling rib. This isn't a wrestling rib. Because if this is fake, phony. It's fake news. This is a phony rib. This is not how you handle things in pro wrestling. It's phony. It's fake. It's a fake rib. If this had been real, a real wrestler, because let me tell you, a real wrestler would have taken a dump in those bags instead. That's what a real wrestler would have done. Anyway, Anna Jay appears out of nowhere and they beat themselves up some more. So it's fine. Renee Paquette was all in the middle of this, by the way. Kyle Fletcher and Don Callis come to the ring, and Kyle Fletcher cuts a necessary promo in which he establishes why he decided to turn on Will Ospreay, and he said because everyone keeps drawing comparisons because we were so close because of the United Empire. They always kind of saw me as your little bro kind of thing. He didn't say that specifically, but that was the vibe of the promo. He said, so I had to distance myself from you. Like what you did with Okada in New Japan. He brought you in. He was your little bro. What did you do to break apart, to break away from Okada and be your own man? You had to turn on him. And I'm like, this is all good. This is all good. Good content. Great stuff. But on top of it, on top of the good content, he is delivering this promo like a champion. Like this was a kick-ass promo. And you can start nitpicking the issues that you might have with it. Oh, the cadence sounds a little too WWE. Oh, it was a you people promo. But the package in which it was delivered, even if there were little things that your affinities might have been challenged a little bit, might have scratched you the wrong way, the package, the whole delivery of how he brought this promo into life was fantastic. An extraordinary crescendo. For starting from here and ending all the way up the fuck here, where he decided that he was going to be so unhinged that he was going to shave his head in the middle of the ring, right? So you had to be able to go from here to here. I was so impressed. I was hanging on his every word. The build, the emotional build where he did start very calm until he lost his brain is pure pro wrestling magic. Those are the kinds of promos that get you excited, where a guy just goes completely batshit. And he went batshit to the point where he started shaving his head because he was like, I have to stop looking like you. You don't look like him that much. But that's the point, right? Don Callis has clippers and he goes, and he doesn't shave it all off, right? So he has these tufts of hair. He's got like a third of his hair left. It's tremendous. He looks completely unhinged. And he handled the crowd. I'm telling you, he handled the crowd like he has been cutting grade A promos for the past 15 years, which he hasn't, by the way. Because what was the thing they were chanting? Wrap it up at some point. And Kyle, he stops talking, turns around to address the audience and says, something to the effect that I am using time that was bought by Don Callis, so shut up, I'm gonna be here for a while. And I'm like, this was perfect. Because he could have just turned around and said, shut up, he could have just said, shut up, you Utah geeks or whatever, go back to your multiple wives, whatever. Isn't that it? Mormons, that's the joke. And it doesn't matter. What matters here, I don't want to distract from what I'm trying to say here by doing really stupid jokes. That's the point, actually, is that Kyle came up with something much better than what I did. And he is such a pro. Like, what has happened to Kyle Fletcher in this year? We have been talking about for a long time on this podcast how Kyle Fletcher had all the tools to be a top guy, and that it was entirely up to him to decide, right? It was like he has all the tools, but it depends on his effort. What is he going to do to establish himself as a top guy? And you knew Tony had confidence in him because he was, he gave him the little pushes and would put him in, key matches at key moments, just very subtle stuff. But over the past year, he has just exploded, like something clicked. Is it because his boy Will showed up and Will is just like mentoring him and guiding him through this? This was spectacular. Did he workshop this promo with Will? It was so good. It was so incredibly good. It's the promo of his career, and he had to nail this. He had to nail this because he's in a program with Will Ospreay, who is right now the top babyface in the company. You can argue Swerve with me. One of two. How about that? Will Ospreay, who is the best wrestler on the planet, an incredible promo guy, and Kyle Fletcher's here basically saying, I'm going to hang with you. No sweat. I got this. I'm going to hang with you. Star-defining promo. I loved it. Unhinged. Said exactly what needed to be said. Makes tons of sense. Advances the story. Now next week, we're going to get Kyle Fletcher in a match, and he's going to win, and maybe Will Ospreay is going to show up at the end. Right? Because Will is out selling the injury. I am so hype about this. Like, this was tremendous. I don't know. I don't know. Again, if you find some faults that irritate you, that I get it. But technically, and to a sense, right? Maybe it didn't agree with you, but the delivery here was so impressive. If the AEW if the WWE cadence bothered you, don't worry, because he delivered it in a way that in a way that they would have never let him deliver that promo in WWE. It was not that at all. We get a recap of Konosuke Takeshita defending the AEW International Championship at Maple Leaf Pro this weekend. I was going, wow, okay. Well, I mean, I wasn't surprised. Why am I being surprised? They basically ended the show with an AEW angle because Ricochet ran in. I guess my surprise is, isn't that neat? You got the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling stuff showing up on AEW, and good for Scott D'Amore and all of that, but that the show I mean, I talk about it on my review, which is on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast, and will be available on the channel as a standalone video as well shortly. But like I said in my review, one of the things that irked me with the ending of night 2 of the 2-night Maple Leaf Pro show is that it ended with an AEW angle with Ricochet running in to chase off Konosuke Takeshita, and then Ricochet standing tall, trading camera angles with Takeshita, and both guys, and you're like, this is an AEW angle. This is doing nothing for MLP, right? Maple Leaf Pro is not getting it. Is not getting this match. You know what I mean? Which I thought was weird. It was kind of weird. They also did that with at the anniversary show in CMLL a couple of weeks ago with Chris Jericho and Mystico, where the match ends. It's the biggest show in CMLL, biggest show of the year for CMLL, and we're doing an AEW angle at the very end. I'm like, with Orange Cassidy, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? This is why are we agreeing to do this? Right? It's kind of strange. But nonetheless, if you want to hear my full review, it'll be, again, like I said, it's on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast, and will be on the channel shortly as a standalone clip. Pretty long clip, but you know what I mean. So they showed the clip. Ricochet's backstage, and MVP rolls up on him with Shelton, and they go, "Hey, we had history, but new company. Let's start fresh." And he hands him a card. Ricochet didn't seem quite impressed with that. You got to tell you, Ricochet's run so far in AEW isn't setting the world on fire, but I find like his backstage stuff, his promos and whatnot, is maybe he's just a lot more comfortable, but he's not coming across as the utter geek that he was in WWE when he came to this stuff, right? Where everyone was like, hey, don't let this guy talk. He's cringe, This is not bad. We had Brian Cage and Lance Archer defeat the Pillars of Destiny. That is the name of the tag team. Hunter Gray and Parviz. This was an absolute squash, which is fine. They're clearly setting up Cage and Archer to be the monster tag team, the team that everyone fears, and that's great, actually. Please do. I think it's a great idea. Then we have the Chuck. Okay. We're getting into another situation here, which really unnerved me and kind of pissed me off. Chuck Taylor, we're doing the backstage, the parking lot stuff. And Chuck Taylor, that's where we see him go up to Orange Cassidy, pulls him aside, and gives him the Jerry Lynn pep talk, right? From Wrestle Dream. So we're starting to see the flow here. Why they're with Orange, right? People sort of boosting him up and whatnot. And Chuck basically says this, pretty much, we're paraphrasing, but the same thing. It's like, you need to step up. You're the guy. You're Orange Cassidy. People love you. Whatever the fuck, right? But we've already talked about this. What we haven't said is that Chuck Taylor then tells them, you better head inside. Mark's match is coming up. Mark Briscoe, right? In the conglomeration, right? In the group. So he's like, you better head back inside. Okay? So he sends him inside for Mark Briscoe's match. Let's keep that in mind. So we get to the ladder match where Chris Jericho defeats Mark Briscoe. I don't even want to harp on the Chris Jericho stuff, okay? I know the people who were going to hate this hate it with a passion, and good for you. That's fine. I think they've got a pay-per-view coming up, right? They got the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I don't remember which one. I can never remember the names. I always say, it's Super Card of Honor every time, but I know that's not it. Is it Death Before Dishonor? But they have one that is going to be coming up. And there's no attention being paid to Ring of Honor. Mark Briscoe doesn't even wrestle on the show. Like, he wrestled once, right? In the past, month. He's never on the show. So what do they got? Well, okay, let's put Chris Jericho in and Have him fight Mark Briscoe for the championship at the next pay-per-view. There you go. Because despite the fact, and here I said I didn't want to get into the Chris Jericho stuff, but I cannot say this enough. It's like, I understand people who have issues with Jericho. I understand why people don't like him. I understand there are multiple reasons to be like, Chris Jericho can go suck an egg, right? Just like Dusty, he can go do that. Multiple reasons. Now, if we're just focused on the wrestling, I have been saying on this podcast right here for a couple of weeks now, I believe Chris Jericho is officially physically washed. I think he's done. I think he can't do the things that he used to do, which is why he ends up in gimmicky situations like a ladder match here. Okay? So I'm not even defending him from a work rate standpoint. But I'm gonna be very curious to see how good his quarter hour did, because generally speaking, he does really good. Chris Jericho does good business. He has always done good business for AEW. And this is what the Jericho haters can't seem to wrap their heads around. And somehow they're like, oh, well, it's Chris Jericho angling again and putting himself in these positions where he's going to be the top guy and and he's winning big matches. As if Chris Jericho had all this decision power when you have Tony Khan, the booker, who is also an avid stats guy, a numbers guy. You have Tony Khan, who ultimately makes these decisions. So he's looking at Jericho, he's looking at his output, he's like, yeah, good quarter hours, best one here, and so on and so forth. And, probably has access to some other data in the back. He's like, no, this makes sense. This makes business sense. So the Jericho haters can continue complaining online all they want. They are not a reflection of what's happening in the audiences. Like, the number of people who hated the learning tree, like who absolutely hate it, as opposed to the reactions that Jericho gets because of it. It's like, we're online. We're a bubble. We're a bubble of a bubble. It's just as simple as that. But look, I liked the match. Of course, I thought Mark did a lot of the work, though. Early on, Chris Jericho is going through tables, right? He gets DVD'd through a ladder as well. And Mark Briscoe, he's doing sentons off of ladders onto Chris Jericho, who's got a ladder on top of him. Great spot, where Brian Keith at some point gets involved. So does Rocky Romero. And again, keep this in mind. Briscoe does a froggy bow off the tippy top of a ladder, which was fantastic. And he goes to climb the ladder, right? But Big Bill shows up and chokeslams Mark out of the ring and threw a table on the floor. So then Big Bill, what he does, and this is impressive, don't get me wrong, he fireman carries Jericho up the ladder so Jericho can reach up and retrieve the title. So it's the finish I was expecting. And I think it was well done. But it also makes no sense, because only Rocky came out to defend Mark, to ward off. You had Rocky come out. That's fine. But where was Kyle O'Reilly, who actually walked out with Mark Briscoe during his entrance, and then he goes back and we never hear or see of Kyle O'Reilly again? Orange Cassidy, in the previous segment just before this match, was told by Chuck Taylor, Mark's match is about to start, get in there. Where was Orange Cassidy? Only Rocky decided to do something about this? Like, like I said, I understand the finish was a good idea, but it makes no sense. Makes no sense. And then after the match, Tomohiro Ishii shows up, who is also a guy in the conglomeration. Why didn't he run down to do something about it? I'm completely blown away. None of this makes sense. We got all these people in this group who are supposed to be watching out for each other. There's easily 3 guys still backstage. Rocky maybe got taken out, I don't remember. But you've got easily 3 more guys backstage. And not a single one of them is running out. despite the fact that one of the guys already did run out. Like I hate this. This is the kind of stuff that I cannot stand for. It's dumb. It comes across as dumb. Makes you feel dumb. I hate this. I hate this so much. Like, it's not even the Jericho win. It's the story around it. Makes no sense. It's junk. It's junk. Like, this was junk. Oh, and don't worry. I don't think we're getting Tomohiro Ishii and Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor, on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I think this is going to be, or has it already been announced? Did they announce any more matches for Fright Night Dynamite? Yes, they have announced matches, but not Tomohiro Ishii and Chris Jericho. So that might be in a couple of weeks, right? That might be. Look at AEW. Back to booking things in advance, right? You've got Swerve versus Shelton next week. You've got Buddy Matthews and Adam Cole. We're going to get to that in a second. Kamille and Chris Statlander. And the Young Bucks and a Private Party. Look at that. And they already set up a match for in 2 weeks. I can't remember which one, though. I probably have it in my notes somewhere. But they're already, like, they've even started setting up matches for in 2 weeks' time. So I'm like, look, this is a positive. This is good. Don't get me wrong. It's the kind of stuff, it's the kind of stuff you like to see. At least I like to see. We get a hype reel for Kamille and Chris Statlander for next week. And then Adam Cole hits the ring. And this is another bad segment. 2 weeks in a row. Another bad segment featuring Adam Cole. I'm sorry. It is. Comes to the ring. And then the Undisputed Kingdom come out. Like, they all have to tie these. They all have to tie all of these things with, Roderick Strong and the Kingdom. And they were friends. And now they're no longer friends. And the Undisputed Kingdom were heels. Now they're no longer heels. Like, they all had to tie all of this bullshit together because of the events that transpired. Because now Adam Cole is the babyface when he had to be the heel, and MJF is the heel when he had to be the babyface. It's all junk, and not a particularly inspired moment. And I don't think it was very good. And then we have more MJF on the screen. This time getting a massage by someone who is clearly not a registered massage therapist. I'm pretty sure about that. But she can show me her credentials whenever she gets an opportunity to prove me wrong. But let's just skip over this. This wasn't very good. We get a pre-tape of Penelope Ford, which leads to, and she's talking about Jamie Hayter, which leads to Jamie Hayter being interviewed by Renee Paquette backstage. And she wanted to fight Penelope, but Penelope's not there. So she sets up a match for in 2 weeks' time. I like this. So now next week they can do a little something to continue building this little TV feud they got. It's not that hard, and I'm not a difficult man to please. In this regard, like, when it comes to pro wrestling, usually the simplest things work best, and the more you try to convolute it and make it complicated, the worse it sucks. House of Black squashed 3 geeks, and I popped so hard when I saw these 3 guys. Jaden Monroe, Kevin Koa, and Pirata de la Muerte. He didn't look quite as geeky as the others, but nonetheless, 3 guys that you just looked at, and you're like, these guys are never winning anything. Like, there's no way. Like, they just looked like the perennial jobbers. And I popped so hard because that was one of the biggest throwbacks for me, where, I'm watching Saturday morning, Sunday morning wrestling, whenever, and you see, like, you see King Kong Bundy come to the ring, and he's fighting like this complete, like, this noodle-armed, pale-ass jobber, right? Where you're like, coming in to fight a guy that that guy will never win anything, right? And that's a vibe you don't get much, because even the enhancement talent they use a lot of the time in AEW is, someone who works local indies, or maybe is a little more present on the national level. So, you're like, oh, this is so-and-so. I know this person, and they're a legit wrestler, and they have nice gear. These guys, they just look like they were fresh out of the Monster Factory, right? Just like plopped in this situation where they don't have a hope in hell, and I loved it. I loved this, and it made the squash so much better. It really made the squash so much better. So after the match, Buddy Matthews gets on the mic and he calls out Adam Cole, and then we go back to Gorilla backstage, right, or close to, right, and Adam Cole is with the Undisputed Kingdom, and Renee Paquette is like, what was it, Renee? Anyway, he's getting interviewed, and he says, and the interviewer is like, well, what do you think of Buddy Cole's challenge? Buddy Cole. What is this? Kids of the Hall? What the fuck? Buddy Cole? Buddy Cole? That is absolutely like thinking I got Scott Thompson on the mind. So Buddy Matthews, she's the interview is like, what do you think about that? And Cole is like, I don't know about what the issue is with Buddy. Like, and let me go ask him. Coming back from the match. I thought that was nice. That was a nice little thing. Coming out from the match, and they meet up, and you're like, these are the kinds of natural interactions you expect from pro wrestlers, right? In this, like, what do they do when they meet backstage? Well, this kind of shit. You know, Adam Cole's like, you got a problem? And Buddy Matthews says, yeah, you're brittle, or, you know, you're fragile, I think is the word he used. Okay, all right. A little heat to the match next week. I find a little weird that the House of Black comes in, gets a squash, but next week one of the members is poised to lose. Like, Matthews is probably going to do the honors, right? Next week, Adam Cole's big return match, unless there's something I don't see coming. But Kamille defeated Queen Aminata. This was not good. This was not a good match. Slow, sloppy, and these are two women that I really, really like. I like Kamille a lot. And you guys know, you know, I praise Queen Aminata every time I see her. And you know, it's not even a question of look. Something just didn't click, didn't mesh. This was not good. It was not a good match. Sorry to say. Post-match, Chris Statlander shows up, and Mercedes Moné lands a shot, and yeah, there's a bit of a schmoz. Kamille hits a DDT on her. Anyway. So they got a little heat for that match next week. Kip Sabian, well, you see the Kip Sabian gets he's in the parking lot. You don't see him, right? Because there's a car that pulls up in the parking lot, and the posse is there going, yeah, burn him. But it's the patriarchy. It's not Mox's group. And Kip Sabian is spotted spying on them, right? So they chase after Kip, and they arrive in the arena, and Christian Cage and Nick Wayne got him in the ring, and then Hook shows up on the Tonytron, and Renee runs up to him and says, hey, Hook, are you going to confront the guy who attacked your father? You saw the security footage. Are you going to confront? Do you know who it is? Are you going to confront him? He says, yeah, he's in the ring right now. So we're like, oh, so it could be Christian Cage, could be Kip Sabian, could be Nick Wayne. And Hook like takes out Nick Wayne because he was in the way, but clearly it was Christian Cage who attacked Taz, and Hook goes, not Hook, but Hook goes after Christian Cage, and but Kip Sabian low blows him. So Kip Sabian is actually aligning himself with the patriarchy. See, it was a swerve. And Christian is kind of surprised, and he goes, go stand in the corner while I deal with this, you know, kind of thing. And then he does the kill switch on Hook on his metal contract gimmick. You see, they don't know what to do with this fucking cash-in stuff. They don't know what to do with it. Does anyone honestly believe that Christian Cage is going to cash in on Jon Moxley? This is such it's such a bad idea. It is such a bad, I hate the cash-in concept. It's so dumb, and it's not good. And now everyone is, because you see, now the attention gets diverted because everyone's like, well, when is Christian going to cash in? When is it going? And it doesn't, unless they have this brilliant angle lined up, what is it that they're going to do with Christian Cage and Jon Moxley at this point? Because Moxley's not losing this anytime soon. And he's not losing it to Christian Cage, I'll tell you what. Anyway, so yeah, this angle continues. Kip Sabian is likely going to be in the patriarchy moving forward. And then we go to the main event where Daniel Garcia and Private Party defeat the elite trio of the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. I thought this was pretty good too. After the match, Private Party call out the Bucks and ask for another match because because Matt Jackson got pinned here. Matt Jackson always gets pinned. Like, that's not even an issue. But the Bucks say no. But then Private Party sort of double down here, and they're like, well, let's have a fight. And if you guys win, we'll break up. This is Isaiah Cassidy talking to Mark Quinn's like, what the fuck, dude? And this sort of ties into what Stokely was talking about the last week, right? Where Stoke was like, Isaiah Cassidy is the single star. And, when you look at these guys wrestle, Mark Quinn is very mid. Isaiah Cassidy is good. Don't get me wrong. But is this what you're going to do? We're going to do a breakup angle, I guess. Might as well. You got the guys on the roster. Might as well give them something else to do. Try something new, right? Try to make a single star out of this guy. But, this is clearly an angle, a setup, and we're going to get the Bucks and Private Party again. And the Bucks will probably retain, and that'll be the end of Private Party, and everyone's going to pretend like it's this huge deal, when in fact it's like, well, good, let's do something else. Let's freshen things up. It's actually going to be it's going to be a positive. And then a truck rolls up in the parking lot, but it's Marina Shafir all by herself. The rest of Mox's crew snuck in got in using any other entrance in the building because they're not fucking idiots like all the fucking morons outside. Is Mox's group supposed to be the heels? Are they supposed to be the heels? Let me tell you. And so they take everyone out, including Daniel Garcia and Moxley. The crew, they Pillmanize Chuck E. T's neck. We've already been over this in the finale with Orange Cassidy being upset. And I think, Orange Cassidy, now that he's full of emotion and sad for his friends, I think he should come out, instead of coming out to Jane next week, he should come out to Sweet Jane by the Cowboy Junkies. There you have it, folks. It is the review. I thought the first hour was pretty good. I thought the second hour was, while the wrestling was fine, was pretty good. The envelope around everything sort of made it a more of a slog, a little bit of a frustrating watch at times. I hate it when pro wrestling, any kind of media actually, tries to do things because they think I'm stupid. And the conglomeration not coming out to help, not coming out to help Mark Briscoe when they were clearly established to be there for Mark Briscoe. Kyle O'Reilly walked out with him, then went backstage. Orange Cassidy was told, Mark's match is about to start. Get backstage. That's the kind of stuff that insults my intelligence. That's where I'm like, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I'm stupid? Because I'm not stupid. And this is infuriating. Anyway, that's where we're at. Good first hour. I think the second hour fell off. And, well, the mock stuff, you have my thoughts, but maybe next week. Maybe next week's the one. Maybe that's the one where maybe the Friday Night Dynamite is going to be the one. Is Bobby Lashley showing up? Probably. Right? You have Shelton, who's had a couple of warm-up matches, established himself as a guy. A couple of weeks in a row. Swerve wins. Bobby Lashley shows up. Right? Like the video, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings, and so on and so forth. I will be back. Not much streaming over the next couple of days, but I'll be back Monday with a stream without any shadow of a doubt. Monday, Tuesday, and a new edition of the Mr. Warren Hay Show podcast on Wednesday, per usual. So subscribe, go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me, and we'll see you next time.